Fire and Wheel. In class 2, you studied the life of early humans. You studied that they used stone tools to dig out roots of the plants and to kill animals for food. You also studied that they lived in caves and covered their bodies with leaves, bark of trees, and animal skin. In this chapter, you will study about some important changes that took place in the life of early humans. Discovery of fire. Early humans learned many things from the natural activities. Discovery of fire was one of them. Let us know how the early people knew that there was fire before they learned how to make it. The early humans came to know about fire accidentally. Lightning would have struck the dry leaves and branches of the trees in the forest, causing forest fire. Volcanoes erupted and fiery lava burned everything. All this must have frightened the early humans. However, they noticed that fire could keep them warm. They saw that fire kept wild animals away. Slowly, they understood that fire also kept their dark cave shelters bright and warm. As they sat around the fire to eat, it is possible that a bit of meat fell into the fire. The cooked piece of meat was soft, easy to eat, and tastier than raw meat. It is also possible that the hunter-gatherers came across an animal burnt in the forest fire. It smelled good, it was tasty and soft. Thus, the early humans would have concluded that fire could keep them warm. It could be used for cooking and driving away animals. Making a fire. In the beginning, humans picked up a burning stick and used it to light other sticks. This way, they could have a fire that they could use to keep warm, for cooking, for lighting up dark caves, and for keeping wild animals away. However, accidental fires did not happen every day, so they started thinking if there was a way of making fire on their own. While making stone tools, they observed that hitting two stones together produced sparks. So they started using these to make fire. And for the first time, there was a human-made fire. Now they could eat cooked meat, keep themselves warm, and keep wild animals away. Beginning of farming. The early humans noticed that small plants grew into big ones. They observed that the seeds that they threw away or dropped on the ground grew into new plants. They realized that they could sow seeds in the soil. With time, these grew into saplings and then into plants. They learned that it was possible to grow their own food. This was the beginning of farming. As they started growing crops, the early farmers realized that soft soil and lots of water were needed to grow healthy plants. Therefore, they started to settle down near rivers and other water sources. Farming changed the life of the early people in a big way. In order to look after their plants, they started living in one place. A group of farmers living in one place formed a small village. The first shelters came up, which were tent-shaped huts made of animal skin, branches of trees, dry grass, and bones. In the beginning, the early farmers plucked out the crop using their hands. Then they made a very useful tool, which we now call a sickle. Made of wood and stone, this new tool was used to cut crops. At first, they used stones and bones to dig the soil for planting seeds. Much later, they made the plow, a tool that made planting of seeds easy. Domestication of animals. The early humans also understood that some small animals were friendly and came near if they gave them food. Thus, they began to keep small animals like sheep and goats for milk and meat. This is known as the domestication of animals. They also started keeping cows. It is believed that dog was perhaps the first animal to be domesticated by the early man. Division of work. As the early humans started living in groups, they learned to share work among themselves. Some worked in the fields, others built shelters, while some made pots and baskets to store extra food grains. Invention of wheel. The early humans had to carry their loads on their back or by hand. It was very difficult for them to carry heavy loads to long distances. They observed logs of wood floating on rivers. That gave them the idea of tying logs together to make rafts. Now moving across rivers became possible. As time went by, they noticed that rounded logs of wood rolled on the ground easily. They thought that it would be easy to carry heavy objects if they could roll them over these rounded logs. They started rolling more than one log and moving goods on the rolling logs. Slowly, these were shaped up into the first-hand carts. They then thought of cutting off rounded shapes from logs of wood and fixing them to the carts. Thus, the carts with wheels were ready. These could be pulled by humans or animals. They also used a wheel to make a potter's wheel, which was used to make earthen pots.